Good evening, everybody. I'm happy to be here. And again, I was introduced to this by Brooks. I've been doing, well, a little bit about myself. I've been a police officer, or I was a police officer for 10 years. I'm still in law enforcement. I've been in law enforcement for about 15 years. Currently, I'm not a patrol beat officer. I currently work with DA's offices, sheriff departments, police departments, and I do a lot of courtroom crime scene reconstruction, accident scene reconstruction, and even consult on civil cases to do the same type of work. Doing digital graphics, there was something that was lacking, and the big thing that was lacking was some way of capturing overall views or overhead shots, and not necessarily, in the past I had at my disposal things like fire trucks, AT&T trucks, whoever I could commandeer that was near the area, we could use them, especially at a crime scene. So we've used all sorts of apparatus to get the shots that we needed to get. The problem with that is that you couldn't get high enough. You just couldn't get high enough. And I've seen out there's things such as poles with cameras on top, pole photography. There's all sorts of things. And I personally love the KAP. KAP rig. I haven't built one yet, but I was fortunate enough to start on the internet, looking around. I got wind of KAP photography, and I started writing with this gentleman, Brooks. And after writing a few times, we found out that we lived right in the same area. I live in Seaside, which is about 10, 15 minutes from here. And so we were writing back and forth, and I was, I know he was probably, oh, not him again, and I'm going back and forth. And finally we started talking about it, and he was a little hesitant, but I came over with my laptop, and I showed him what I wanted to apply it to. And he was just all ears, and he agreed to help me out and built me a rig, and we're on our third rig as of now. So I've shown other officers and people, what I'm doing, and they just don't want to, they don't have time. They don't, and that's fine for me. More work for me. What I'm going to do tonight is, I know it's billed as KAP Conquers Crime, but I'm going to really bring it down a notch and just show you some of the things I'm using KAP for. In other words, it's really software solutions. One of the things is you get your images. What are you going to do with your images once you have them? And doing the KAP photography, you know that sometimes you get images and there's one this way, one this way, one this way. And you can use stitching software, but a lot of stitching software only works if it's linear. In other words, you can't tilt it very much, or it's not going to stitch correctly, which, if anything, you're going to spend a lot of time in Photoshop to get things to work right. And then you really have a manipulated image, which is something that I could do, but for court purposes, it just isn't going to work real well. This basically just means I spent a lot of time in court, and I didn't attend the entire conference. I wanted to, but because we're here at home, I had to step out for a couple of things, and it was all work related. That's just one of the problems. But hopefully the next conference, wherever it is, I'm going to be there, and I'll attend the entire conference, and I'll step this up a notch and bring some more demos. Let me go. Again, the reason for the KAP was I was looking for a way to get some aerial photographs. One of the main things is budgets. Everybody's on a budget. You can't get a helicopter. If you can, like in San Jose or a larger city, you can't get low enough, even for a police helicopter, or you have nighttime, or there's a lot of things. Weather, if you could use a plane or a helicopter, you got weather to deal with, as you do with KAP. I should back up a little and say that I also use a blimp, a 17-foot blimp, which I have not had to, how do I say, I haven't had to adapt it in any way. It's a company down in Oxnard, California, and I'm working with them. They'll build any configuration of a blimp you like, so they can make a custom blimp for any special needs. I have a 20-foot trailer, and I put the blimp in there, and then I can launch it as many times as I like. Helium, to fill a 17-foot blimp, which is around 220 cubic feet, is about just under $200. So it gets a little pricey. Also, you don't want to, if you're at a crime scene or a place where you're going to do some surveying or a big area, you want to be able to move from place to place. I had a special adapter made for my receiver on my truck, and it's a depth weight for trolling. And it has a metering gauge, which also, so I bought this thing for about 80 or 90 bucks, and it carries my line perfectly, and I can get within, plus or minus a foot or two with the tension on the line, which is perfect what I need to do. So I can go to point A, take it up 50, 60, 100 feet, 200 feet, bring it back down, move to another location, take it to the same height. So that's normally how we work a scene, and we usually try and get at least 2 points, and I'll show you why a little later. But if you can get 2 points, you can pretty much create the whole scene from that, a basic scene. So let's see what the two programs that I'm going to discuss tonight and show you a little bit of demos. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I don't have the time to give you a complete tutorial, but I think I'll show you enough that it might get you a little interested and at least try and explore some of these software programs. The first one is going to be a program called Konoma, and it used to be made by a company named Meta Creations, which is now gone. They also made Painter and Bryce and a couple other software programs. The Konoma portion of it was purchased by Adobe Photoshop fame in San Jose. Right now they have it in their vault somewhere, and nobody knows what they're going to do with it. There is a website called Konoma.com, which has some great resources for Konoma, some demos, places where you can still purchase it online, and that's a great place to go. So that's for Konoma. Now, Konoma is, what you can do with Konoma is you can take, for those of you who aren't familiar, I know that Simon has experimented with some, and some other folks are familiar with it. But what you can do is you take some photographs, and you can even have one photograph, and that's the minimum, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But if you have more photographs, you can take several photographs, and from a two-dimensional photograph, create a three-dimensional object, a scene. And this is using primitives, which are very simple to create. You just drag them onto the software plane and stretch them, pin them to a certain corner or a certain location. You build whatever you like, cubes, arches, and things like that. The software will then, if you have different images, will map the texture from the photograph onto the primitives, and what you end up with is a three-dimensional object that you can export to a movie. You can save it as a DXF or other format and bring it into something like 3D Studio Max, Lightwave, any of those software programs, even CAD programs, and with textures and everything. So what it does is it saves you a lot of time in rendering things like that. The next software program is DJoiner, and it's made by, I believe it's a English or a British company, DVisions, and their website is d-vw.com. It's DVisionWorks is the name of the company. This software, I do a lot of panoramas, and I'll show you the example later on, but I do a lot of panoramas, and I've used most of the panorama software out there. And one of the problems with panorama software, at least that I've encountered, is when you're trying to get a large format print, which pertains to KAP. And again, you've got a bunch of small images, and you want to make one big image, and you don't want any distortion. That's hard to do because the software usually works in a linear fashion, and so it doesn't correct for the shots being turned in one way or another, unless you crop it, and then it's a lot of production time to do that, and some extra work to get it to work right. DVisions will correct for that. You don't have to. It's pretty much a straight shot. You go in and you pick certain points in one photograph, bring it to another in relation. You lay out the photos in a general mosaic of how you think they should go, and the photos do not have to be corrected, and you do not have to even add any mathematical formulas for focal length or anything. It solves for everything. And what you're going to see, one of the examples I'm going to show you is a roadway, and I want you to look at how straight the curve of the roadway and the lines are. If you were to do this with some other software, you're going to get some curvature and things like that. Any questions on either one of those? Okay. Again, the D-Visions would be great if you were trying to take some shots or you scan in some high-resolution shots, drum scan, something like that, and you want to create a larger image. And this is, normally you take a KAP shot and the subject is down at this corner, you missed it. And then the next one, it's up at this corner, you know, of your frame. So by doing that, similar to what was just shown to you, you can create a high-resolution image with very little work. Okay, this basically describes Canoma and some of the basic points on it. You can create the 3D models from the photograph. It's pretty straightforward. You'll see the interface. It's pretty minimalistic. You can also enhance the textures right within the program. So once the textures are mapped onto the object, you can click, say, on the north wall, and it will open an editing software where you can go in and you know, manipulate that texture, get maybe from a photograph, open a photograph, clone the texture, get it right. And when it saves it again, when you close that, it puts it right back on the model. So you don't have to tell it to do anything. It's pretty intuitive. Everything's linked. It exports to all the major formats, 3D formats. It'll create animations for you. Once you're done, you can do a animation. We'll show you how that's done. And you can export in MetaStream or VRML for access to the web. This is the interface. Let me, this area up here, your basic tools. I'm not going to go into the entire program. Down here, you can see the primitives. Basically, primitives are basic geometric shapes that are used to create the objects. It does not create, one of the problems, at least in this version, was that they do not create spheres, or anything round. That can be overcome because you can do a sweeping, it's a polygon. So you can simulate a round object, for example, a tree. You start with a triangle, it's a polygon. You can add points to mimic the shape of the tree. So when you view it, it's not a three-dimensional tree, but it will map the, it works well with the textures. By looking at the texture and having the outline of the shape, it's two-dimensional, but when you view it, it really works well. Here's and I don't know if you can, yeah, I guess you can see it better there. One of the examples I'm going to show you is a photograph that was taken by Kevin, and it's of Point Pinos Lighthouse, which is here in Pacific Grove. And here's the photograph in the upper left corner. And what you see here is the basic primitives. This took all about 20, 30 minutes to make this. And what you see is the basic floor image here, shape, plane, and then a couple of cubes with a triangle that's swept back, a cone shape, cylinders, and what will happen, that is the first version, and this is how it looks when you're working on it. So basically you take your shapes, you just drag them on, stretch them, pin them to the corners. You have these little pins, similar as like a thumbtack. If you don't like it, you can then move it somewhere else so you get it just right. If you're trying to get something really exact, you can then zoom in and get it right on the corner. So basically you look at objects, well, most 3D modelers will look at objects anyways, and you have some basic shapes, you know, and that's why they call them primitives, and that's all down at the bottom. Okay, so once you have that, you tell it to go ahead and map the texture, and you're left with something like this. This portion here, remember, this is one photograph. So then what you do is you take, you would click on this bottom portion, oops. you'd click on this. I think I'm working on it. So you'd click on this bottom portion, and it would bring up this whole bottom plane texture. And you would go in and you would clone or do something of that nature. Now, if you had two photographs from opposite angles, you would have the thing dialed in pretty good. And what you can do is take those two shots, then on the ground, go up and take some close shots of maybe the front or whatever it is if you really want to zoom in. And you'd have some really detailed shots of that. And then you could go right up to the building. Okay. Okay, so let's see if I can do this. Here are, on the right is Kevin Flynn's photograph of the lighthouse. On the left is the model, and here's the model. It can freely rotate with your textures, and you can even let it do its own thing. So, do I hear an ooh? So it's pretty straightforward to do. You can see there was some texture missing on side of the lighthouse there. Obviously, I could have cloned it from one side, gone to the other, but I didn't want to, spend the time. I actually wanted to show you that there is some work that you have to do on the other side. But you can see I pretty much corrected this portion here of the lighthouse. Let me see if I can get out of this now. This is a Bill Gates moment. You're not supposed to see this. Any questions on this while we're trying to resolve this? No? Okay.
So it's basically an inactive project.
Pardon?
It's basically an inactive product?
Yes, it is, but it's still available. There's copies out there to be had, and a lot of people got them. For example, I obtained it in a bundled software with Poser and a couple other. I'm a big Painter fan. Right. And so a lot of people have them, don't even use them. You'll see them on eBay. You'll see them a lot of places. There's rumor that they will be coming out with another one. Who knows when? But I think it's a great software if you can get a hold of it, or if somebody has a copy of it. Get in there and play with it because it's really easy to use, and it's amazing what you can do with it. Now that model that you saw is only I want to say 170K for the entire MetaStream model. So it's readily. I like it better than VRML for the internet. It has its own plugin, JavaScript, and it just comes right up. So if you wanted to, another neat way of using it that I use it, and I didn't bring an example, but one way to use it is if you have a large area, for example, a refinery or an archaeological area, and you don't even want to model it, you can take it and create the plane, the floor plane, and it allows you to rotate the image in different directions. And it works great for presentations and things like that. You can even conduct the fly-throughs. And let me see if I can show you this animation. And I think it's Control-2. This is all done within the software. So if you wanted to lead somebody through an area or something like that, you can do that. Because it's digital, you can stop it at any point and do anything like that.
Did you fill in the back on this particular one here?
Yeah, the back was filled in, and let me see if I can. That was filled in, and then this was corrected slightly down here because remember we had the shadow of the entire building in the back. So I corrected the floor plane and the back The building, the software itself will mirror some of the sides. You can tell it to mirror, and so usually it will add what's on the front of a building in the back if you don't have that image.
Is there any scaling factor in this?
Not in this. This is not photogrammetric software.
Okay.
But if you want something like that, there's a great, especially in what you do, there's a software package that I use. It's called Photo Modeler Pro. It's a Canadian company. Woohoo! And and they is a great instructor. They have classes up in Seattle or at the in Montreal, I guess, wherever the company's at. But this software, the software that I'm talking about, Photo Modeler, actually gets down to I mean, just inches. I mean, you can a half an inch, quarter inch. I don't know what the I don't know the metrics, but I mean, it is accurate. And you can take, and they use it for accident reconstruction, crush data on cars and things like that. And again, it's from photographs, and you have some known points, some known measurements. Usually, we take those from markings in the roadway, stop sign line widths. We'll go measure those in reference to the photo, and we can recreate it all. And then you can export a CAD drawing for AutoCAD or for any 3D software and recreate the whole thing with textures or without, and even have the superimposed line drawings. You know, I mean, there's people that were using total stations to do all of this, and you can do it just with photos and software.
Now, the textures we're seeing on this, on the animation, was based on the photograph that was scanned in.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. All that was from one photograph. Yes.
Have you thought about bringing these into a GIS? Would that be possible with some of the export options?
You're talking about like DEM
Yeah.
elevation. He's talking about digital elevation maps where you've seen a hiking map where it tells you how high everything is. Well, you can do that. You can't do it in this software, but what you can do is you can export it from here, do it into a Bryce or 3D, you know, any of the upper, and then take your models and put them in there. And then that would give you your floor plane that is, for example, if you were doing an archaeological dig, you'd want to import the DEM first and then create your model and bring it in. The neat thing about this is that they're primitives. It's very easy to do. You don't have to have hours and hours of training. I should say weeks and weeks of training or experience. You can sit down, and I could probably sit down and show somebody, and you could create something in 20 minutes, a model. It's not that difficult to do. That's the beauty of this. We use this in court. We don't sit there and create models from, you know, and there are people that will give us presentations that we input into our software, but if they want something simple, and I'll show you how we use this on a $4 million case, and no problem. Yes?
Was that a QuickTime file that you were playing? It looked like a QuickTime player. Was that
It exports to movie files only, and then you can use QuickTime to export to AVI or any other format that you want, FLC files, animation files. So, anything else? Okay, the next software I wanted to kind of go through, and let me see if I can figure out my stuff here. Is D-joiner. And again, the big advantage to this is stitching photos from different angles. I mean, it was just so much time I was spending doing that. Also, we take a lot of shots indoors. When you have a crime scene and you're in a house, if you're going to use a lens, you're going to have some distortion one way or the other. You've all seen pictures where the window frames or something, you either got to get way back or you can't get everything. Or if you're going to do some kind of a panorama, you try and keep everything level and then bring it down, and it's done in a sequential manner. This allows you to do away with that. You could come in here and just take some freehand shots, and then it will take them and compensate for all the canting. I mean, you can't have one that's right angle and one that's like this. It won't do that. But if you have them, 20 degrees or so, it'll do that. And that's usually about less than that is what you're going to have. It'll output to very high resolutions. So if you need to do something, the size of this screen or something, no problem. It's pretty much unlimited as to high output. So you can do that for bureau printing or anything like that. Supports all the image formats, all the panorama formats. Cube panoramas, sphere panoramas, cylinders, any type of panorama that you want to do. And it has its own Java viewer, which comes with the software. So you could go right to the web if you didn't want to mess around with some of these other programs.
What about scaling the photos of different scale, like one's 2 feet away, one's 5 feet away?
It'll compensate for that. I mean, you can't. Again, when I show it to you, you're dealing with points. So if you have points that are this far apart, and on this image they're this far apart, it will take those 2 points and put them at that point. So that's the beauty of this, and I haven't found any other software that'll do that. I found some. There's another high-end software called RealViz. They have what is it, Scott? Stitcher. And they pretty much work in that same gridded thing, but you kind of have to overlay the shots and kind of the way it's always done. This is the only one that I found that you can it kind of does that for you. So it's really worth, if you're doing something where you're taking a lot of shots, especially with a KAP rig, you're going to be up there. If you're using a wide angle, I mean, you're just going to get you're better off doing it lower, taking more shots, and creating a large format print. You get more detail, and you get a bigger image. Here's the interface. Pretty straightforward, not much there. Basically, you import, save, open. These tools here are to move it around and to select points. Zoom in, zoom out, and then these are the 3 phases of doing it. First phase, you would import your photographs, and you select the points that correspond. Now, I chose this specifically because it had the straight lines in the photo. And when we get closer, you'll see that some of these photos they're not straight, they're canted. So they're definitely not on the same, they weren't taken with a tripod or anything, just freehand taken. And again, the more photos you have, the better your image comes out. So you select, it will go ahead and do that. And then if you look at this line down the middle or down the side, this thing is straight, and the stitch is around here, and same on the other side. And I'm going to show you an actual KAP photographs. I actually got the shots. It's what is that point? Pigeon Point from Scott's. Well, that's what it is. You'll see it. It's Pigeon Point, and we'll go ahead and do that. And here's the tunnel images. And basically, you set up your origin photo, which is where you want everything to start from and reference to. And you can see these are not in any way parallel or anything. One's canted definitely, and the software brings them back to center.
How many points per image do you have?
The minimum you want to have is 4. I have done some with just 2. It just depends on what you're looking at in there.
You seem to be drawing just a dotted line from...
Well, no. All you do is you select your tool here,
Okay.
and you pick point A. Well, this is way down here. You can move the image around. So you can move it and find the areas that correspond. You can see that this one is the resolution. One is a lot closer than the other. These are, and all you do is then select your points. And for example, if this was here, you'd come here and you just, boom. If you want to get really accurate, you would go in really tight, and then you'd find those points, and you find those points.
What does it do with that car if it wouldn't be involved?
It'll, I think it gets rid of it. If you have a ghosting image, which is pretty common with panoramas, it'll do away with it, whichever it has more pixels of. So let me get back out here. What you'll do is also you can set the parameters. So if you have a point that you don't want, you can get rid of it. That's all it is, point to point, point to point, point to point. And then when you're all through, you just tell it to stitch the image, and it will just do it for you. And there you have it. And normally we deal with images when we're doing them, we'll have 20 or 30 images. So we have a huge image, and then we're trying to get one point. We never know what's going to be valuable for a court case, or even if we do, because you get these other areas that you don't have anything on, then you would focus in on whatever point it is that you wanted, and then you render that point. So we'll go here where these two sections were brought together, and we'll have that rendered. The first part is stitching it together, then it will go ahead and render the portion for you. Any questions? I think if you're doing archaeological digs or anything like that, where you have a lot of space, you're going to be taking a lot of shots like that and putting them together. This is probably the best stitching software that I've found. And for that simple fact that with KAP, you have that inherent floating around, maybe a little bit of elevation because the wind moves or you know, it goes up and down. This solves that for you. And there you have a crystal clear. Notice the straightness of the lines, which is really important. Okay. The next example in D-joiner that I'd like to show you is it's a pigeon point. And these images were taken from a spherical panorama that Scott Heffner did. And what I did is I took shots, and you'll see how they're completely just, the lines don't match at all. And attempted to put it together. And basically, real quick, these boxes here, when you first start the program, you kind of have to know what you're trying, you know, how many, you lay these out, you look at them, you say, well, I've got about 3 or 4 rows up and so many this way. It doesn't matter if you're left with extra boxes. You can move these images wherever you like. Once they're connected, they stay connected. So you can move things around, and then you can bring in another image, stick it up on top. Oh, I forgot one, or oh, I have another one over here. You can bring that in. Again, these images are all connected. We'll go in here, zoom in, and you can see the angles here are just, I mean, I don't know what the degrees is there, but there's quite a bit there. This software will go ahead and bring those together. We'll go ahead and stitch it. And there's your shot. Now look at, when I render this, I want you to look at this line here and see how straight it is. Again, we haven't entered anything for focal length or anything on the camera. We haven't entered anything. No geometry, no how high are we, no what angle, any of that. And you can then see the, and this was done from a relatively low-res JPEG image off the internet, which was a spherical panorama.
So did you cut hunks out of the spherical pattern?
Correct. Correct. So that's why you get that, you know, this piece is way over here, this piece is over here. But I would have better matching images if I had just done it from one KAP area. So it pretty much works like this every time. So
It looks like a way to actually truly rectify a larger portion of the image than I'm able to otherwise.
correct. You could basically reverse. Exactly. Right.
Well, and what would it do with a fisheye?
Well, he's using the source of these images was from a fisheye.
But after you'd gone through and mapped it, there's something else?
Well,
Even if you export a fisheye as a flat image, you still have, it doesn't make it, you always have that, yeah. This gives you a flat image. It compensates for the, yeah. So, and again, I mean, I tried to bring this down without getting too much into it, but I mean, anybody in here can pick several points on one image to another. You could just use two images and put them together, and you'd have a great image. And again, because of capping, I mean, this is the reason I was just ecstatic when I found this, because you always have that problem. You're not going to get images, or say you want to do a panorama, not a horizon panorama, but you want to do a lengthwise panorama. Now you've got your rig up there, and you know it's going to move. So, you know, even, you know, I guess you could use one of the special cameras, but if you don't have one or you just want to do it on your own, you take these shots. Even if they move, you're not going to have, you know, that type of problem.
I'm not exactly clear what you did here. How many photographs was this constructed from?
5.
Oh, so where did Scott's fisheye
But there-
photograph come in?
Yeah, there are two answers. There are 5 images, but they came from one image. They all came from
Right.
the same place.
The one image was completely distorted. Did you show them what a fisheye?
Yeah, oh, okay, so you shot.
It's a donut. Yeah. Well, what happened was the way that's rendered out is you basically, in essence, have a three-dimensional, a mathematical sphere. That image, and the sphere is determined by what the focal length or whatever is entered as the lens on that camera, and then the software wraps that image and deciphers it in that sphere. Or whatever, depending on what type of panorama. Yeah, basically projects in this sphere. So what I did is went in and, while looking at that panorama, took some shots of that panorama. So it was deciphered, took basically stills of it and did it. I do this all the time. I use this one only because he had presented it, and but I do the same thing with crime scene, accident scenes, and it's the same thing. I wanted you to notice, I mean, really down here, if you look at, let's see if I can do this. What you really, I mean, an image is an image. These are, although they were taken from the same place, the angles on these, and as he stated, I mean, it's almost straighter than what it is. I mean, his is still a little bit, if you tried to get a straight image, you couldn't get it out of a circular panorama, even if
The thing
you...
I was just wondering though is, I mean, the color balancing is perfect because it's, but what about if you have like different images?
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, if you're asking that, the software allows you to go in and you can adjust brightness, you can rotate it all within the software. If you look here, I have certain things here. Yeah, I wasn't doing this to try and get the exact image. Yes, it's all color balancing because it started with one image, but the one that you saw before, the roadway, was different ones. And if I was going to do it, I would go ahead and check that before I even put it in there. Sure. A good rule of thumb is to lock your white balance. When I'm doing a shot, I lock it so that they all have the same white balance. So then you don't have that problem. Now, doing an aerial, yeah, so if you can lock it, you can do it. That's just a trick that you're going to get the same. You know, it might be, you know, whereas if you leave it on auto or whatever, you're going to get this because you got backlit. And then when you try and stitch it, that's when you have a lot of problems because you're having that.
Are you saying to do a manual white balance? Or
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, if you're doing a cap, it's one thing. I'm talking about how I use it indoors, say for a room or a crime scene. Yeah, I'll sometimes lock it. And again, I take a lot of shots. I'll do a whole set just with the same white balance, and then that way I don't have that problem. You're going to have the consistent all throughout. And then I'll go back and I'll do a set that's auto or change it in another way, and then I pick and choose what's going to work the best. And I use the handy-dandy shot separator. Just take a shot of my hand, and then when I go back, I know where I stopped taking a series of shots. Because if you take 500 shots, you're kind of lost. Yeah.
When you project this spherical panorama in the job applet or the QuickTime movie, these things that I'm creating, basically it's undistorted in the center, and as you go further out, it gets more and more distorted.
Right.
I noticed that these don't look very distorted. Were you just taking a small bit of it every time you copied something out of the current?
Well, whatever was in the viewer, and that's
The whole part of it, the whole.
exactly, and that's part of it. I mean, when you zoom in, you get the undistorted. Right. Right. I wasn't really concerned about that. What I was concerned about was the distortion as far as roadways, the curves. They're completely off, and that if you were to try and stitch, one image to another, and it's completely in another place, the software, Live Picture, or any of those will not bring it back up like this. It'll just go like this, and then you got to edit that somehow because now you have a ghosting of part of the curb or part of the roof line. This doesn't do that. It brings it up like that because you're telling it, these 2 points go here, these go here. So it does this. And you can see it on that software where it's all kind of, stretches it. Anything else?
Example of crime scene photography?
Oh, well, let me show you. Well, I didn't. Let's see the blood and guts. I'm going to show you an example of how all these pretty much come together. And you're not going to see any blood and guts, but I am going to show you. Gosh, let me see. I promise the next convention I'll do that for you. Yeah, as much as you want to see. This is normally, I do all sorts of cases, civil cases, criminal cases, you name it. Some of them have a lot of stuff, some of them have a little stuff. And basically, the norm is that if it's a civil case, I'll get it like 18 months after the fact. So they've got all this data, all these photos, all these video, all this stuff, and they want us to take all that and make a presentation out of it. And basically what this is kind of a PowerPoint on steroids. And what it'll do is you can put in all sorts of media, everything from 3D modeling to video to panoramas, and we use overhead shots, and this is where the KAP comes in. And as a juror or somebody watching the presentation, you always know where you're at in relation to a panorama. And this area here tells you which direction you're looking, and there's all sorts of different software that'll tell you that. So you always have an awareness of where you're at. You can then bring in video, and let's see if we can get it to. You can bring in video because it's digital. Obviously, you can pause it, go backwards, forwards. You can bring in animations. And again, this is the Canoma product. So there's the entire campus, or that portion, I should say. You can this case, it was a $4 million case, and in a nutshell, there was the school was having this guy go up and down in this golf cart. The PE teacher sent the kids around this building, and ended up hitting the golf cart around this, hit his head, and now he's drooling and doesn't walk and the whole bit. The school said, no, we never drive the golf cart on that path, and you can see here. Definitely he's doing that. And then they said, well, maybe we drive it on that path, but we never do it with people. And it. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, hold on a second.
Switch to software acceleration on
Yeah. Let's see. Well, can't show you that. It's the hardware acceleration, but I reset it and it won't do it. Anyways, the kid went around that corner, he got whacked in the head, and they sued the school district. They denied it. We were able to show the golf cart on there with people in the background. Brought in some animations of, oh, I can't show you that either, huh? Oh, so animations as to what exactly happened. So what you can do is you have everything in one place. So you make a whole decision, not just on, let me show you this blow up of this photo, and then let me go over here and play this video, and let me rewind it. That's how it was done in court, and now, or in presentations. Now you can have everything in one place without having to resort to anything else. We have x-rays, everything all in one shot. So if you were doing a presentation, you could do it in this fashion and be able to show anything you want to show. You can even show enlargements. This one doesn't have any, but if you had photos, usually like coroner's photos, you got to bring them up, you got to mark them. We usually use this with another little piece of software called Gyro Tools, which comes with a gyroscopic pointing device. And what's really neat about this is you can go in and you can mark things. And you know, the cart was going this direction, it's coming this direction. It's just a great way to reference everything at once. You can anyways, so that's the tools. That's pretty much it. It's my bag of tricks.
What is the name of the presentation tool? The PowerPoint on steroids?
This here, I wrote this software.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, this is my baby. So if you want to use it, you got to call me. No, we're working with some folks right now making a box version and that whole bit. But basically, it'll accept any panorama software. It'll accept any video software. And it really, you know, it seems pretty straightforward. This interface is pretty simple. I have some pretty intricate ones with pull-down menus. But the hard part was getting all the technology to work together. That was really where the problem was at the same time on the screen. So.
What's the back end to it? How do you build?
It's all wizard driven. How many panoramas? Panorama 1 is called this. Panorama 2, it creates the names, pull down menus, and you just go through. You don't have to. That's right. So you do have to create the media, but you don't have to go in and code anything or do anything like that. It's all done for you. Anything else? If you come up with some questions or anything at any time, feel free to email me. I'm in the directory. I'd be happy to answer any questions or send you some demos. I do have a website, but most of my projects are hidden because I usually deal with a client, but I can set something up and then show you online a lot of the stuff. I'm pretty savvy that way. So for you local guys, I'm sure be at my house soon. But thank you.